Welcome back to another episode of Picking Up the Pixels RPG Love. I'm your host, Boston. Joining me as always is Musum.
Hello.
Welcome to the first episode of the new year here. Hopefully everybody's doing well. Wanted to quick couple of plugs here. We recorded a whole bunch of stuff at the end of last year. That's kind of on the TVGP feed. So if you didn't check it out, Musum, Moonpear, and I are on the Game Club of the Year episode where we've been doing it for a couple of years, but we kind of talk about and rank the 11 games we played every year. That one turned out really well. We played a lot of really great games last year. A lot of years we go in and we're like, yeah, man, I forgot about a lot of these cool games. 2024 was a good year. Um, on this show, we also did a recap of all the RPGs we played last year, whether or not they came out last year or not. Still kind of chatted about them because, sometimes you want to revisit some of the stuff you played and catch up. So we talked about that, and we had a two-part episode of Game of the Year, kind of end of the year on TVGP, that I thought turned out really well. Kind of changed the format up a little bit, and broke that into a two-part thing. So go check all of that out. All that is on the TVGP feed if you're over there. Also wanted to do a quick plug here. I only live stream like once a year, and it's coming up again. I'm doing the Bungie Foundation Game to Give fundraiser again this year. I'm a featured streamer this time, which I'm not sure what that means. But I'm going to be fundraising again. That is January 31st at 2 p.m. Pacific over at twitch.tv/Boston Hannon, Hannon. I'll be streaming for about 2 hours. I'm probably going to do something a little goofy again next time, or this time. So go check that out and at least come hang out, watch. You don't need to donate or anything, but I am pretty close to $250,000 raised lifetime over the last, I think it's 2 or 3 years. So maybe we'll celebrate hitting that milestone on the stream. So go check that out. Come hang out with me. I'll be playing some Destiny 2. Anyways, let's talk about what you have been playing these past like 2 months, I guess. Musum.
Yeah, so we'll start out with the obvious one. I've been playing the crap out of Metaphor ReFantazio.
Yeah.
Um, I have beaten it, and
Okay,
I'm on my
nice.
second playthrough. Um, which is to say, I liked this game where I immediately beat it and immediately started a new game.
Right.
It's man, um, so on that first playthrough, there were like 5 or 6 days where I was trying to wait out the weather at this tower, where it turned out this tower was just bad weather 90% of the time. And there's
Mm.
a mechanic that you get like, maybe a half a month game time later, where you can adjust some of the weather in some of these areas at a cost.
Oh.
Um, and evidently that's what I should have done. But um, either way, so point being, I had 5, 6 days I couldn't do anything. I still managed to get all the social links in the game.
Oh wow.
Um, I completed almost all the quests. There was one quest where like it was like a cooking quest, and I couldn't find the ingredient for the life of me.
Hmm.
And then I found it, and I made it, and then I was out of time, so I didn't get to turn
Oh
it in.
no.
Um,
That's the
so I
worst.
assume that is the one thing I missed there.
Hmm.
Because I guess it's something if you don't know if you're not playing. The quest givers typically have an exclamation point on the maps of every city that you look at.
Hmm.
Um, it is not 100%. Sometimes you got to go and look for some grumpy people and then talk to them, and then they turn into a quest giver. But
Oh, okay.
it's pretty close to that. So, as long as you're kind of checking your maps every day, it doesn't seem like it throws you any curveballs. Um, the let's see. The last time I talked about it on this cast, if you can remember back to then, I was commenting how I felt like it was politically like very pro modern world. And I'm not going to
Mm.
spoil anything, but they kind of flipped that on its head at the end,
Oh, okay.
um, in a really good, smart way. I felt like
Mm.
the like my overall kind of interpretation of the game is like the first like 2/3 of the game are like magnificent. They are like nearly perfect. It just is. It comes on strong and does some things. And my first playthrough, there's a twist that I just knew in my heart they were going to do something like this. I don't think there's any possible way you could predict the exact twist, but you knew the second like certain story events happen, and you're like, I bet they're not gonna. I bet this is gonna be dumb. How are they gonna do this?
Right. I played enough RPGs to know something's gonna happen here.
Yeah, and I'm still kind of standing by that. That still is a little dumb, but my second time through is much more digestible. And granted, I'm skipping large chunks of the dialogue the second time through.
Sure.
But anyway, I was hoping to kind of 100% it, trophy wise on PlayStation. But they have a trophy for winning a debate against every candidate. Okay. And I just never, every time I see a candidate on stage, I'm like, well, no, I have to go do this other thing. And then they're not ever there again.
Okay.
But it seems like a cool mechanic. I'm going to have to go through a third time to get it if I want it. And I'm not sure if I have that in me right now. But basically you like they have these stages in almost every city where you can it's just a giant platform, like the town couriers is what they're called. Get on stage and give news, and you can get up there and it'll increase your speech, your eloquence, that's what it's called, your eloquence skill. But if there is one of the other candidates up there, you can get up there and debate, and it will increase 2 of your stats. It'll be eloquence and something else. And all the characters you're debating, which I hadn't put it into words, but I was listening to Axe of the Blood God over the break, and one of their members pointed out that all the non-story candidates are all like these one-issue candidates, which
sure,
is really, really good, because you have one guy who's like, I'm old, young people are dumb. You have another guy who wants all bars to be free. Like,
they're very passionate about their one issue.
Yes. And you run into them, and you I think you fight most of them, if not all of them.
Wow.
At some point, but because they're kind of like, they're all in runners, and when you plan your trips out, you'll inevitably run into one on a trip and have to duke it out, kind of thing. But I don't know, I'm kind of bummed I'm missing the debates, but I'm getting to the point where like kind of the last achievements or trophies I'm chasing are, one of them is the main protagonist has to have I think all the archetypes maxed out, which
oh wow, okay,
that is a lot. And it's getting towards the end of the game, and I still have like 5 or 6 to go, maybe a little bit more than that, but like it's under 10, I think. And I'm still like kind of losing confidence on that. But the thing is like grinding in this game is I kind of enjoy it when you kind of find the right dungeon to do it in. So I'm just going to give some kind of grinding tactics. And if you grind, you're going to break the game. Like, it's not going to be challenging whatsoever.
Sure.
Once you have leveled up your guys. So in general, you need a dungeon. Like, as you run through a dungeon, at some point you will find the cat. You'll talk to the cat, your save point. The cat can teleport you to the beginning of the dungeon, and then the majority of monsters in the dungeon will regenerate. And then you can run through it again. So on that end, you generally want a simple dungeon where the majority of monsters regenerate. And you want to not spend your time in the turn-based combat. You really want a dungeon where the majority of monsters you're already 3 levels higher than, and you can take out and just dodge the rest.
Taking that on the field.
Yep.
Right.
So on that end, the towers, there are 3 of them, are the best grind points. Something else that may be less obvious about grinding, or maybe super obvious, I felt honestly later kind of dumb for not realizing it. You'll find these big, like red crystal things that generate enemies. Um, just don't destroy them until you're ready to leave the dungeon. Like,
Oh, just let him
because
like keep spawning enemies.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, because those are nice little. Really, in any dungeon, they're nice little grind points. But
Mm.
one of the big reasons you don't want to get into turn-based combat when you're grinding is because while there are like MP regenerating type skills, they don't do it at large amounts, you know.
Mm.
Like I think the top skill Revitalize 3 like recharge a, large amount of MP every turn, and that large amount is like I remember like 5 or 6 points or
Oh,
something.
jeez. Okay.
Um yeah, and at that point your spells cost 30, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um so just some odd strategy stuff to keep in mind. And then if you are content with being really strategic, which to be clear, like I think it was um I don't think saying the location is a spoiler. The Virga Islands is like the fourth location you get to, and that is when I truly started grinding.
Mm.
And I had not done any grinding until then, and it was a very challenging game, but it was doable. So I assume like the rest of the game is constructed with that in mind. So
Okay.
I suspect you could strategically still make it through the whole game without grinding.
Right.
But I ground for an inordinate amount of time, and like very rarely saw the turn-based screen due to that, which in some places was kind of a bummer because it's like, oh, you really wanted this enemy to matter, and
Right.
then it did not. Um, but and then I guess the last thing is if you can just hold out till the very end. Um, how can I talk around this without? At some point, you will go to the. Uh, how do I put this? When you get to. So, the very last location you go to is you go back to Grand Triad.
Okay.
Um, and when you get there, the next story dungeon is. I hope I'm saying this right. I hope there's not a dungeon I'm forgetting about. But the next dungeon is the best grind point. Like the enemies are
Mm.
nice and high level. They have really, really good drops. There are a couple. There are quite a few crystal areas, and the crystals regenerate, which is abnormal. The majority of the dungeons, you destroy the crystal and they don't come back.
So it really
Um,
seems like the game's kind of like, hey, here's your last real
yeah,
good opportunity to kind of get where you want to get going. That's interesting.
yeah. Um, so like yeah, and by then you'll probably have all the classes too, so or
Right.
archetypes. But anyway, this game is amazing. I wholeheartedly love this game. I love all the way it's evolved the Persona formula. I love how it's broken out of that Persona shell to a degree that I hadn't consciously realized was there.
Mm.
I like on the one hand, I can't really. It's hard for me to imagine how they do a sequel to this, but I'm also thinking of like a Persona sequel in that aspect. Like, did they
Oh,
start
sure.
another country and it's another prince running for the throne? Like,
Yeah.
you know, and I don't know. I don't know what any of that looks like or feels like, but this game is just hands down amazing. I was shocked it won awards at the VGAs.
Right.
uh, or do they even call it the VGAs anymore? The Video Game Awards?
I feel like TGAs maybe now.
T- oh,
I
TGAs.
don't
Oh, the
remember.
Game Awards. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that's too bad. I liked VGA.
Yeah.
The '90s kid in me with my VGA card.
That's right. Yeah, I really need to get back to this. I haven't played it in I don't know, like a month or two, and I feel like I am probably in a really good spot to play just kind of a real meaty JRPG. And based on everybody who's played this, past a couple of hours, it like literally everybody has said hey, this is an incredible JRPG in general, but I think especially if you like the RPGs that Atlas makes, this is like the best one they've ever made.
Yeah, this is I'm hesitant to say that.
Mm-hmm.
I like I can see it and like part of me feels it, but I'm gosh,
You don't want to say it out
Persona
loud.
3 through 5 are so good
Right.
and like Atlas has made so many RPGs like am I forgetting something,
Mm.
and but this one is it really is something special,
Yeah.
and granted that said it is some of the things that Persona has some really minor like criticisms that
Mm-hmm.
I think they should start thinking about, which is I don't need constant like, are you sure you want to do that? Are you sure you're sure? Are you
Right.
sure? Like, I don't need like two or three
This is
affirmations.
your
Give
this is
me,
your final chance to say no. It's like, oh my god,
yeah,
yes.
yeah. Like, I don't need you to give me a text box that tells me how to do a mechanic and then immediately have a character come on screen and tell me how to do that mechanic
Exactly.
again.
Right.
Like
Right.
just do one, But these are livable things that we've kind of put up with in these games
Right.
that they have to know are there to a degree, right?
Yeah.
Like, um, but gosh, this game is it's something else, and I'm still shocked as many people liked it as they did. Not because it's bad at all, just I'm just not used to these games getting attention.
Yeah. It is. It's very like. I don't think it's on the level as something like. We were all playing RPGs when Final Fantasy VII came out originally, and that was like a
Oh yeah.
real watershed moment of like, no, literally everybody that has a PS1 is playing this game. It's on everybody's lips. I think this feels really close to that. As in like I think a lot of people that didn't like Persona but wanted to play it has been playing this, and everybody that likes Persona has been playing this. I get the impression it's sort of bled into people that maybe haven't played RPGs before or maybe haven't played a lot in general. I feel like there's some breakthrough over there. It's not to the level of like Balatro, where it's like, I've never played a roguelike or a card game, but all right, here I'm spending 100 hours on it this week. But it definitely feels like it's pretty close to that of everybody is playing this, and I've seen some people online that's like, I think this game is really dumb. Okay, how long did you play it for? About 20 minutes. It's like, okay, that's fine. Like, you can kind of discount that stuff because, like most JRPGs, it's kind of a curse of the genre. A lot of them are really slow and really tutorial heavy in a way that, like you were just saying, is kind of annoying. Of like, thankfully, this game doesn't do the like, you failed the tutorial thing, you need to start it back over. Like, thankfully, it's not that
Mm,
annoying, but it's pretty annoying. Of like, here's how to cast magic, here's how to attack enemies. It's like, yeah, okay, cool,
yeah,
yes, 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 yep, I get it.
it's to be fair, it is a pretty complicated game. Like when
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to tell my friends who've never played one of these before, like, and maybe it's this podcast's fault where I'm just constantly describing system after
Right.
system in the game. I'm like, oh no, but it's way more seamless than it sounds.
Yeah. Well, and it's if you played a bunch of RPGs or if you played similar stuff, you can say like, it has a really cool job system, and you're mixing matching job stuff, and it's like, oh yeah, cool, okay, I get that. But if you haven't, it's like, okay, well, an archetype is a job, and jobs are like blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, anyway, yeah, I'm looking forward to when you finally dig into this, and
Mm-hmm.
it's. I don't want to scare you with my play times because I ground
Oh,
for literally.
I know it's long. Yeah, and
It's. I think you could beat it without grinding for in like 60 or 70 hours or something
okay.
like that. But I ground a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and so my play count is like 120 hours or something.
Yeah, to me, I know people get, and I understand why that a lot of people get scared off when you sort of drop the triple digits. Um, and I get it, but for me, I'm playing like a mainline Atlas RPG. It's gonna be pretty long. If it isn't like,
Yeah.
if we come out of there 20, 30 hours, great. Like I'm pretty pumped about that, but I'm also from like a job system and a grinding perspective and like a gameplay perspective, I'm also pretty excited if someone's like, yeah, it's 120 hours. It's like, great. I can play that for a couple of months. That sounds great.
And the job system is so good.
Yeah.
Like, and it's their first stab at it, and I gosh, I know it's going to take them years to get us another iteration in this, but man, do I want to see what they're doing next with that job system.
Right.
Um,
It's very smart.
yeah.
Yeah.
So after this, I had a friend buy me Dragon Age Veilguard for Christmas.
Oh man, I want to play
Um,
this so badly.
this is I I gotta tell you, going from metaphor to this is a very strange
I
experience.
bet. Yeah.
It is. Um, I'm not gonna poop all over Dragon Age. I am enjoying Dragon Age. There's a lot of things it's doing that I really like, but I'm gonna start out with a little bit of negativity just in that, like,
Sure.
in metaphor, you open a menu and it's instant. You press a button, something instantly happens. You move your
Hmm.
character, they instantly walk. Dragon Age, it's like Inquisition. You press forward on your stick and your character lumbers forward and goes this
Yeah.
way.
There's a
Like,
momentum to some of it.
yeah, like
Hmm.
everything is so much slower. But it is gosh, I've been trying to wrap my head around this game because the first 4 or 5 hours I'm like, I do not understand what this game is going to be when it lets me go. I assume it's going to let me go.
Right. Right.
Um, and uh, honestly, I think they took a Dragon Age game and said, you know, we really like those Sony third person action games
Hmm.
that are like slight Metroidvanias. What if all the worlds were just that? Um,
Oh. Huh.
and that is my interpretation of this because like your different characters have different skills that will affect where you can go in the world. Um,
Oh. Okay.
and you get a special item where even if you don't have that character in your party, you can still use that skill.
Mm.
But I think I have four uh, team members, and I think there's like three or four more to go. Um, so like I have no idea what I'm missing in these worlds, but I've literally just wandered around, unlocked stuff, found weird ways to kind of climb and go down it. Um, everything feels very kind of narrow and tight and like way more video gamey than I'm used to out of a Dragon Age environment.
Right.
Um, just, everywhere there's, you know, hidden chests and things, and it's not like uh, Inquisition where you just have like a giant field and 5,000 fetch quests to do,
Right. It feels like more of a corridor sort of thing.
Exactly.
Right.
It's like I want to compare it to God of War, but I don't want to get everyone's hopes up that they're going
Right.
to God
Yeah.
of
It's
War.
not. It's not a very
Yeah.
different combat. Yeah.
But you know what? At some point, your character's going to turn sideways and scoot through a crevice.
Oh no, it's a video game. Oh no.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but like there's a lot of really cool environmental puzzles. Most things like you aren't going to climb up a cliff edge like Zelda for the most part, but generally if something is up to your waist, you can kind of climb over it.
Mm.
I found one point in the game where I didn't quite understand that and was completely confused how to solve a puzzle because every time I walked up to the ledge, it wouldn't let me go up it. And then after like literally a half hour or something of trying to figure out the puzzle, I just accidentally made my character climb up. And I'm like, well, this would have been a non-issue
Right.
had that happened the first time. But um, it's gosh, I honestly, the more I play this game, the more I'm like, do I even remember what a Dragon Age game is? Like, it's been a while.
Yeah, and like all three of the Dragon Age games have all been similar enough but fairly different
Yeah,
from each other. So like it's coming up to the release of this, I saw a lot of people being really precious about what a Dragon Age game is, and it's like it's changed every single time. Like
yeah,
it's okay if you liked the like really classic Dragon Age 1 kind of top-down turn-based stuff like that. That game was great, but they're not gonna make that anymore. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Like developers are and publishers are, but it's not gonna be Dragon Age anymore. That's not gonna
Yeah.
sell.
And that ain't a bad thing,
No, yeah.
Like,
I've liked how the series has evolved a lot over time.
yeah. I mean, it's Final Fantasy, except the story is, you're still in the same world.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was, man, it's weird because you start the game, you make your character, and then you make your Inquisitor from the last game. Which
Oh, okay. It's been long enough that you like can't import it.
it did not give me an import option.
Oh, okay.
Granted, I'm playing on Xbox. That's
Okay.
what my friend bought it for me on. Which it's working out well. I like my Series X and its
Mm-hmm.
controller. But it's I don't know. I need to Google it to make sure. But that is I feel like I had read that somewhere that it was not going to import your saves, and it was just going to like ask you a question or something like that.
Yeah,
But
because Inquisition did that. This is like a minor spoiler. It's been long enough, but like Inquisition did that too, based on your Dragon Age 2 character, because it showed up later on in the
yeah,
game. But I think it did a very similar thing. I don't think you could import it, but it was basically like, here's a couple of templates. Did it look sort of like this? And I was like, yeah, it's fine, no big deal.
yeah, yeah. It's like I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna get to the end of this game and then be like, I think I need to replay all the old Dragon Ages.
Right?
Um, and like I've tried before, but I really want to do it on my Steam Deck.
Yeah.
And I think the way I'm gonna have to do that, because Dragon Age 1 has a really good fan patch slash mod for it that
Ah.
it it fixes issues and makes some things easier. And plus, Dragon Age 1 has a save game editor on the computer.
Oh,
So
okay.
you could just not deal with how stupidly difficult that game is
Yep.
and just level up your guys, which I'm going to do.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
but I think how I'm going to have to do that is, have it installed on my computer and then just stream it to my Steam Deck.
Oh,
Um,
sure.
but it's man, this game I think it's going to be a continued like me trying to interpret it because it's been a long time since I played a game and not like been able to like categorize it or readily like, well, this is definitely one of these or one of these, and it doesn't feel like one of anything.
Yeah,
uh,
and it's like the polar opposite of metaphor ReFantazio as well, because like that metaphor is a very like dyed in the wool turn based job based JRPG, and Veilguard, it's definitely an RPG. Like I'm not gonna come here and be like, well, I don't. Is it really an RPG? But I think if you could really, even more so than the previous ones, categorize it maybe more as an action RPG rather
yeah,
than, like previous ones have sort of blended that kind of action and turn-based and tactics, but this one seems a little bit more on the kind of straightforward hack and slash action side.
yeah, it's man, I really want to be like that. Action wise, it kind of reminds me of two, but I don't know if I remember two enough to say that.
I was gonna say that too, of like, yeah, two was really action oriented, and I was like, man, I don't know, was it? I don't even remember. I felt
Like
like
I,
it was when it came out, but I don't know.
yeah, because they were really trying to do the Mass Effect 2 thing with Dragon Age 2.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, and I think they carried some of that to Veilguard, but Veilguard still had that tactics view. I
Hmm.
don't think this game has the. Or wait, oh, I forgot about that. Like at the beginning of the game, this game's like, "Hey, how do you like to play your RPGs?" And then it
Oh,
gives you like three or four options. Like one of
MGS
them,
one,
like
MGS two. It's my first Metal Gear.
yeah, like it basically is like, do you really like um gosh, I'm on a podcast. I shouldn't look it up. Um, but
That's
it has
interesting
some
though.
pretty diverse options, which makes me think I need to go back into the settings menu and see how that actually affects it.
Yeah, interesting.
because I think they definitely had one that was more geared towards RPG. But either way, it's your character has a massive skill skill tree. Is that what I want to
Like
call it?
a skill wheel, like a hotkey thing. Like
No, no, no. Like the skill chart in Final Fantasy X. Like it is.
oh, right. Like their skill
Yeah,
trees, sphere grid,
yeah.
license
It
board.
basically has its own sphere grid,
Okay.
um, and that's how also you get to your additional classes. But you take as you learn stuff, you can equip I think like 3 skills at once.
Okay.
Um, and same with your side characters. Um, and those are just kind of the ones you pull up on the fly, and then you can combo skills together. And I'm sure there's a really obvious, like, oh, they're opposite powers, so therefore they cause the reaction. I don't
Mm.
understand what causes the reaction yet at this point, though.
Oh, okay.
But that is generally the goal, is to get 2 side characters who, you both shoot them with your powers, and then it sets off a explosion because you used those specific powers together.
Right.
Um, but overall, I'm really enjoying this game.
Mm.
It's anytime like one of your players has something new to say to you at the base, like there's a little exclamation point over their head,
Mm.
or I'm sorry, the exclamation point is for missable dialogue, is what the game tells
Oh,
you.
interesting.
And otherwise, it's you'll find presents you can give them, which the first time I saw like a gift at shops like, oh, you can give this to this character. I'm like, okay, well, I'll buy it, and it instantly gave me a quest. I thought, oh, this will be a big deal.
Mm.
And then the quest is marked on my map, and I go to give it to him, and then your character goes, here's this. Oh, thank you. How considerate. And then it's over.
All right then.
It's the most 5-second thing, but it also is like has that kind of Mass Effect 3 thing where you're like, those 2 characters aren't standing where they normally do on the map. Oh, they're interacting with each other. I gotta go to
Mm.
witness the shenanigans.
Yeah.
And they start that from the get-go, which, in my opinion, might be a little bit early for that because I'm not attached to really any of the characters yet. But they
Right.
seem kind of like neat people, like I could be. Um, but anyway, and then oh right, I forgot they did a weird thing with their weapon text coverage. Like all video games, it's color coded.
Mm-hmm.
What keeps screwing me up is physical damage is in red.
Oh.
So I keep like looking at it being like, wait, how is this? I'm not even comparing it to something. How is it
Right. Why
lower?
is
Oh
it
no.
bad? Interesting.
It kind of goes against convention, I think, in some UI ways, but for the
Yeah.
most part, I think it plays really smooth. It's metaphor is probably not the game to immediately play this after, just because this is so sluggish. But
Right.
I don't know, man. I'm excited to see where it goes and kind of how it. Honestly, what I'm really most excited for is unlocking the rest of these levels and exploring them
Mm-hmm.
because they seem pretty awesome, and they do not seem, like I said, it's not like a giant field like so much of Inquisitions and like
Right.
areas were.
I
These are
am, to be pithy here for a moment, I'm actually just really excited it actually came out. As I think for a couple of years there, between this and the new Mass Effect, kind of going completely dark, I think a lot of us, myself included, were like, okay, they're just not going to put out another game. And whenever another Dragon Age game comes out, it's just going to be a mess. And people have pretty differing opinions on it, but I think they're at least coming out and saying like, maybe I didn't enjoy it, but it's definitely not a mess. So,
yeah, like it's not a. I haven't like I think I've seen like 2 really minor glitches. Like
hmm,
I kind of consider me not being able to climb up that little half thing for half an hour a glitch because
yeah, yeah,
I was a little frustrated, but and then I think the other glitch was I feel like someone briefly disappeared on me. I don't know. Nothing was game breaking though. Like I didn't miss any
right,
dialogue. I didn't miss any stories. I didn't die. And this is not a this game's easy and then suddenly it's very hard. So it's not the
hmm,
best on like the difficulty curve, but I think it's probably a good game. You
Yeah,
know,
it sounds like it.
I'm enjoying. You know, I'll just say it's a good game.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not very far. I think I don't know, 7 or 8 hours or something like that into it.
Okay.
Um, and it's I can't see it's like usually when you play a game you can kind of see the story mechanics better than you can on this one. And I don't
Hmm.
this isn't going to be any of the previous Dragon Ages again. It's not going to be any of the Mass Effects. This is not the same BioWare from, a decade ago.
Right. Right.
Um, but I think they put out a decent game.
Nice.
And I don't know. I think if you're looking for a game you want Dragon Age, then I mean, why not?
Yeah.
I think it's like $40 still probably, and if not, it'll be permanently 40 soon, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Uh,
These ones go on sale pretty often. So
yeah.
yeah.
So let's see. The next two games I will be faster talking about. Probably Vampire Survivors Castlevania DLC.
Mm-hmm.
Ode to Castlevania. I haven't made it all the way through.
Okay.
But and I gotta tell you, Boston, when you talked about it and you were talking about turning off weapons, like inside of us, like, what madness is he talking
Why
about? Why
would I
would you
turn
ever?
off weapons?
And I get it. I totally get it. So and don't beat me up for this. I even turned off the Among Us weapons.
Oh, sure.
Um,
I mean, the game has just like hundreds of weapons at this. It's
yeah,
not that many, but like it's
yeah,
in the middle of a run. You're like, I just need this one other weapon to do this evolution, and I'm
yeah.
re-rolling forever.
And now that you can just like turn off by DLC, like that
Yeah,
is
it's
amazing.
huge.
Um, and there is. Gosh, I thought I was about to beat the Castlevania DLC, and it's like, nope. Here's another dozen characters and
Yep.
some secrets too.
Yep.
Um, and gosh, that was such a good moment.
Hmm. I really, really want to talk about it with more people because it's this amazing. There's like, so not to spoil it, but for anybody, there's a very clear like end moment where you kind of go fight an end boss. Um, and like most of Vampire Survivors goes, it doesn't quite go how you expect it to. Um, but it immediately pays off, and they have a really great boss battle that they I've talked about it before, but they break their engine in really interesting ways. So it kind of like breaks the game for a while and sews itself back together with this amazing combination of like the perfect song at the perfect moment, and like the stuff that hits on the beat hits perfectly. Like
Yeah,
it's such a great payoff, and then you're like, wow, that was cool, and the game is like, yeah, cool, you're not even halfway through. I'm like, oh, okay, cool, that's
yeah,
great. Oh, the map's bigger now. Okay, great, sure, wow.
yeah. I did. That was the other thing. I was like, Boston's wrong. This map isn't bigger than all the maps. What's he talking
Mm-hmm.
about? Then it's like, oh, right. Which
Oh, I
I
haven't
had
seen
actually
half of it yet.
wondered. I had wandered into like part of the south area of
Mm-hmm.
the map before and been like, well, what the heck's this? And I just figured
Right.
I'd get a key later and that would be that, and just minor extra thing. But man, this DLC is so good.
Yeah.
It's a great way to like. And normally I play endless, but um, for the most part I've not been doing that. But like the last run I did have endless on just because I'd done a run before that and didn't find the matching weapon and didn't feel like Googling it. And
Mm.
the way all the items in this DLC are constructed, especially with I always forget what the opposite of the Arcana cards, the Darkasso.
Yeah, Darkasso, I don't know how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, like a couple of those cards really allow you to basically get every secondary item
Right.
at once,
Yep.
which really makes figuring out what a weapon needs to fuse with quite a bit easier.
I think that the longer that Vampire Survivors goes on, that's I think one of my biggest complaints. I don't want to say criticism, but complaints about this game is there are so many items and there's so many secondary items now that when the game's like, great, you evolved this guy's whip. It's like, okay, cool, I know where to start. There's like 50 secondary items that I can evolve with it?
Yeah.
And do both of the items need to be maxed? Do I need to, in some cases, you're evolving a weapon and another weapon and an item. So, like, I really wish. I don't necessarily want the game to outright say, this item combines with this one, and that is the evolution. But I wish there was some sort of way they could figure out any kind of guidance for it, I think. Because all I'm doing at this point is saying, like, all right, they're saying evolve this. I'm like, okay, let me pull up the chart that I saved on my phone. Oh, max level this, max level that, it evolves it. Okay, great. And I'm gonna do it. And like that's fine, but I feel like it's sort of
Yeah.
it removes a little bit of the fun of it, I think.
I agree. It's also why I've just resigned myself to. I'm just gonna try and get all of them every time.
Mm-hmm.
Per
Yes,
character.
see which ones work.
Yeah, and that's the other necessity for turning off all the DLC stuff, is so you don't get all those extra ones to
Right.
figure it out.
True.
But I don't know, when I unlocked the character on that midpoint game, I thought they're gonna do something weird with this character's weapon, so I just need to do an endless run and just plan on getting everything.
Yep.
And by the time I quit, like you couldn't tell where anything was on the screen anyway. But
It's just all shapes and sounds.
and that's the other weird thing about this DLC, and I don't know how I'm causing it. But like occasionally I get to walk through a bunch of walls, but not all walls.
Yeah. Yep. I've had that happen too.
It has happened enough that it's either related to the finger mechanic thing,
Yeah. Right.
or
Right.
something else. I don't know. I think it might be. I think it's the finger mechanic. But anyway, I love this game. I'm sure I will milk this DLC for another month or so.
I'm still not done with it. Like
Oh, really?
I do. Every once in a while I'll do a handful of runs. And even then I'm just sort of like, okay, cool. I did one more of those, and the game's like, yep, here's 3 more secrets. It's like, oh boy, okay, sure. Like, it's all really good, so I don't want to make it sound like I'm like working in the salt mines or anything, but I'm making a lot of progress. But that number of like, you've unlocked like 400 secrets or whatever out of 560. It's like, okay, cool. That's you guys probably should have charged more for this DLC, because it's pretty massive.
Yeah. It does. I don't know. I mean, I don't think they topped this one.
Right, like,
Like,
I don't know. I'd be okay if they continue to make DLC for this, but like, my expectation would be that this is kind of like the best of all of them.
yeah. Like, I mean, you've said before, either on here or on TVGP, like this, it was already kind of a Castlevania game.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly, right. Like, a barely legally distinct Castlevania game.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, hey, this game's great. If you've been listening us to this long, you probably should just go buy it.
Yeah, it's like they increased the price at some point. I think it's like $4.50 for the base game, and
Oof.
that game is worth well more, like way
Yeah.
more than that. Actually, I was talking to our friend Bill Sefford here recently. He just picked it up and started playing it. My recommendation for any new players, because the game isn't always really great about where to start and like how to progress through the game, look at the secrets menu and hit that hide completed checkbox, and just work from the top to the bottom. That will get you that. It's kind of like it literally is a checklist of like, these are the things you should do next. It's in order of, and if you do them out of order, it's fine, but it's kind of in order of what you should be kind of focusing on.
Yes. And you said secrets menu. I bet you meant the
Oh, do I mean the unlocks
unlock.
menu? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I keep getting the two confused, because like, I know you unlock one of them later, and I think you unlock the secrets menu, and you start with the unlocks menu, whichever
Yeah,
one you
like,
start with.
and the secrets menu, like, you don't. I feel like that's all stuff that you don't get to do for a long time. But I
Yeah.
might be wrong. I've not restarted that game possibly ever.
I restarted it when I started the PS5 version, and that's pretty late game stuff that you're doing in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, And the last game I played is another friend bought me Etrian Odyssey HD on Steam.
Oh,
Um, so I've been playing a bit of this before bed, which is kind of fun. Like it's a weird. Maybe I should start with what this game is. So this is a first-person dungeon crawler, turn-based, like a Wizardry or a Bard's Tale or any of those
like
old
a Legend of
80s.
Grimrock is
Yeah,
those are popular, I think.
yeah. And this is gosh, this is such a I forgot how many features they added in later Etrian Odyssey games.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's like 3 or 4 that both you and I picked up, and that one was super freaking good. But this one,
Yeah.
it's not bad, but it's just very is basic to the point where I'm wondering if I'm wasting my time playing it, but I'm still playing it.
Right.
It's because there's not really much strategy. You just kind of go in, you kill some enemies, you level up, you go back, you camp, you earn a little bit of money, you go back, you try not to die.
Right. You're just kind of like
And
slowly progressing as you go
exactly.
through.
And I'm about done with the first area.
Okay.
Like the way these games are constructed is they have I should have written down what the word is, but they have a every so many levels of dungeon is a related area. Like the if you're watching the video version of this podcast, like you'll see the forest area that you start in, and then I don't remember what the second one is, but I'm about to the boss of the forest area, I
Mm.
think, which is Fenrir. Um, so my assumption is after I beat him, like I will go on to the next area, but at some point they got to give me an ability because there a lot of these floors I've only half mapped, which
Mm.
that's the other part to these games is you're mapping the floors as you go, and there's separate buttons and mechanics for you to do the map, which I kind of just wish it did automatically for me at this point.
Yeah.
Which I know is not what the game is about, but it's real like it's you really gotta like doing it. So on 3DS you had 2 screens to do it on.
Mm-hmm.
One of your screen your touch screen was the map you were drawing on, probably with your stylus, and your top screen was the dungeon
Yeah, and
exploration.
you kind of like
Uh,
always had your stylus in one hand, and you were like playing,
yeah,
but the stylus was still in your hand the whole time.
yeah, like
Yeah.
it kind of made more sense. And on a Steam Deck, like a third of your screen is the map making screen, and you can minimize that if you want and just have the full, exploration screen. But why would you do that? You're going to get lost. Like
Right.
these areas look the exact same, um, and you have, gosh, how does it go? Your directional pad moves you in the dungeon.
Mm-hmm.
Your right stick moves the drawing icons. It's basically your mouse on the drawing icon. It doesn't operate like a mouse. It's a you select in the menu whether you want to draw a wall, you want to erase a wall, or whether you want to open the objects menu and place an object on the map.
Oh,
And
okay.
then you click, I think it's like A, and then it'll let you draw. And I get all of these buttons confused
I was just about to say,
constantly.
like, that sounds like I'd be getting myself turned around pretty
Yes,
much every time I try to draw something.
yes. It
Yeah.
is I've been trying to kind of draw as I go so I
Mm.
don't lose it. But I feel like every session I sit down, my brain has to readjust to it, and it's manageable. But like, why do I have to draw the walls? Why can't you just automatically do that?
Does it have
Um,
an auto map option?
I have not looked into options.
Okay, because it looks like it's auto mapping in this video we're watching, but you know, you can never trust. Did somebody
Oh,
mod this version or something, or is it a quality of life option in the game? Like you never really know.
so it does make the blue square for you
Okay,
automatically.
or like the tile you stepped on.
Yes,
Right.
it does not typically draw the walls around it. Yeah, so
Okay.
like, well, he's getting his walls. Okay, I gotta get in the menu. That would be a game changer.
Yeah,
I would.
that would be pretty. That would be because like, look, I love drawing a map, and that's half of the reason why I love these games. but I, like you, I also played it on the DS or 3DS or whatever, where you're drawing with a stylus. Like you can, every tile you take, you swipe, swipe, cool. Do enough one, swipe, swipe, and like you can. Half of the fun is drawing it at the same time, but like if you're gonna play it on a Steam Deck, you're gonna play it on like a Switch or something or like PC. At some point, just draw the walls for me, please.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, anyway, like this is I do like leveling up, and I do like a lot of their skill tree in it. Like it's
The
pretty
skill
basic.
trees, yeah, I remember liking those. Yeah.
But you know, you get cool abilities, and it kind of creates cool strategies in it. You know, they have I think 7 classes at the start, and you unlock 2 eventually. Which I
Okay.
I never beat the original Etrian Odyssey one, and I
I
never
didn't
played the
either.
HD version. I did get to where I unlocked the last 2 classes, but I remember my initial disappointment of, oh crap, my guys are in their, I don't know, whatever level they were at the time.
30s, 40s, something.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
now I have to start 2 level 1 characters if I want to use them.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I don't know, it's cool. It's a good before bed game, and um, whereas like Vampire Survivors, I may just infinitely play into the AM.
Right,
Um,
right.
this game has a constant like, I don't know, should I keep pushing it in the dungeon or not?
Mm-hmm.
But uh, I guess right now I'm at a point where I will keep pushing into the dungeon because until I beat the boss, there's an NPC just hanging out in the dungeon that will like auto heal me and
Oh,
restore
wow.
my magic points, which
Okay.
I don't remember being a thing. Um,
Yeah, it's been so long since I played the first one, I don't remember.
yeah, it's anyway. Anywho, what have you been playing, Boston?
I have been playing, earlier we talked about Halls of Torment. I've been playing a lot of that.
Woo!
And that, sort of continuing to play after we played this on We Rogue Like It. And a lot of the reason why I'm continuing to play this is because of on We Rogue Like It what we call the square grid, but it's just the quests menu. But quests is like it's not as fun to say as square grid. It if anyone hasn't played it, it's basically it looks like the Final Fantasy 12 license board where it's kind of this interconnected series of squares. Um, but what I really like about it is it's just a list of quests for you to do while you're doing runs. And some of them are pretty easy of like get any of the classes up to level 50 and that gets you like that completes a quest. And half of the quests are they'll give you just gold. And you can use gold to upgrade your stats kind of permanently, similar to how you do in Vampire Survivors. You can use them to unlock additional equipment that you send up through the bucket when you're doing runs, which is still a really great mechanic, and I really love it because I have not collected everything, and going into the dungeon and picking up an item that says not found, and I'm like, yes, all right, let's dash back to the
Yeah.
bucket, let's send this back up to the camp. Um,
Have
but
you
the
found the potions person?
yes, working on sending up more of the potions. I've collected all of the like herbs that are in the level to make all the potions, and now what I can send up are more bottles so I can have more potions available during a run, which is
Yeah.
those are really cool. Um, the other half of them are like when you complete a quest, you get additional skills or variants of skills for your heroes. So some of them will be each hero has its own kind of specific ability that it has by default. And then some of them are kind of like Spear Hunter's Infinite Horde that we talked about a while ago. Um, you'll get variants on the abilities you're finding as you're doing a run. So you'll pick up these like golden scrolls that'll give you an ability. Um, those are pretty powerful. The variants you get, very much like Spear Hunter's Infinite Horde, where it's like my example that I used on TVGP recently was there's an ability. I'll never remember the name, but it's essentially a little zone that gets dropped. It has a symbol in the middle. When you step on the symbol, the zone explodes and does a ton of damage.
Yeah, I love that one.
And like it's really good, but you kind of have to hoof it over there, and it does enough damage, but you're like walking through enemies. But uh, the variant on the ability is that the zones start moving towards you, and it scales based on movement speed. And when it touches either you or an enemy, it explodes. So it turns into this thing that's like, all right, it's kind of a pain to use. Into like I'm just moving and it's moving. It's gonna hit something and it's gonna explode. So like going through and investing in completing those challenges for the abilities, especially, really does have a pretty important payoff.
I need to log into this game again, because
Yeah.
the more you talk about this, the more I'm thinking I have not experienced the variant system.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how deep in it is, but I think so. Like, I think it's the last ability, or it's the last upgrade for each ability, because each ability has like do like 750,000 damage, do 1,000,000 damage, and then do 3,000,000 damage. There's like 3 levels to doing damage with each one, and I think the variant, the variant or whatever they call it, for the really good one is when you do 3,000,000 damage, and it thankfully it is cumulative, so you don't have to just do it all in one run. But thankfully, because of how the square grid is displayed, that stuff is really obvious for kind of like what you need to do next and what is you're gonna get from doing that, which I think is really great. And then on the other side of it is actually, I was talking about a criticism for Vampire Survivors, and we were talking about the secrets menu, where it's sort of like the secrets are fun and they unlock fun stuff in Vampire Survivors, but it's like, one of the early ones you get is like, reunite two great friends and play a piano in the library. And it's like, what the hell does that mean? Like, I don't
Yeah.
even know what that means. But a really great example of this is in Halls of Torment, I think it's the third level. It's that really long bridge.
Yeah.
That has the like ghost knights that are squishing in from the two opposite sides. One of the quests in the square grid, it's pretty late into that level. When you unlock it, it says kill one of the spectral knights, and I was like, oh, I didn't even know you could kill this thing. All right, let's get back into the level and do it. And it took me like 25 minutes to kill one of them, and the quest was called something funny like proof of concept, and I was like, all right, that's pretty good. And then it unlocks like the next tile next to it, because it only unveils a quest if you've completed a quest on an adjacent tile. And the next one says kill 24 spectral knights in one run. And I was like, dang, I don't know how I'm going to do that. But like, to me, the fun of it is seeing that and saying like, okay, I know what I need to do, I just don't know how to do it, as opposed to Vampire Survivors, where it's like, I don't understand what those words are in a sentence. So like,
Yeah.
I appreciate that a lot more, because I haven't had to look anything up. No, that's not true. I did have to look something up in Halls of Torment, because I didn't understand what the things are in the level you're picking up. So for anyone that hasn't playing, in each level you'll like find a book, and it'll have, it's not gibberish, but it's one of those things where you read a fantasy book and you're like, I don't understand the combination of words here, but you kind of see two blood stains leading opposite directions from the book. You follow one, you pick up a piece of something, you go all the way back, you follow the other one, you pick up a piece of something, they connect, and you complete a quest. I didn't understand what the quest, like what combining those two things or picking up those things did. It turns out it significantly weakens the boss of the level, the like 30-minute boss, when you reach it. So either it like cuts one of their phases off, or it takes away all of their armor, or it completely removes the damage they do. Like it's a significant boon to you, but I didn't really understood what it did when I
Yeah.
picked it up, and like what it kind of did from a gameplay perspective. So like that's really the only thing I've had to look up so far, because the game itself is so good about saying like, here's the next thing you should do, here's the things you can upgrade, here's a short tutorial on all of our systems, and like just go do the quests, and that will lead you through kind of all the cool stuff. And I really appreciate that, especially because Moon and I play a lot of roguelikes, weroguelike.com, and a lot of them just like either don't have a tutorial, or the tutorial's out of date, or it's just like worse than useless. Where you're like, cool, I went through a tutorial, I still don't know how to play your game. Like, what do I even do in this thing? And I really appreciate that they have found that square grid system that really does kind of propel you through a lot of the cool stuff it has, and at a what I think is a fairly natural pace. So I give them a lot of credit for that. So
I,
and it's a really great game. It's difficult. I'd say it's more difficult than Vampire Survivors. You never really get to a place in a lot of these runs where you can just stand still and let the chaos unfold. Like you are mobile pretty much the entire run. Um, but you are still looking for bottles, you're looking for gear, you're looking for a bunch of stuff. Like you're always kind of doing something in each run, which I think is really cool. This game's very, very good.
I love how much you guys love this, and I had a good time over the break listening to the We Roguelike at
Yeah.
Halls of Torment episodes.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I just hit a slow point at the office where it's like, man, no one's here. I can actually listen to something and hear
Yeah.
my thoughts.
Right.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
I really wish my only thing is it's kind of hard to talk about Halls of Torment, because it really, a lot of what it is how it looks. It is a Diablo 1 bullet heaven. But it's more than that. Like a lot of the stuff with the gear and the equipable gear and loadouts and your abilities and all of this stuff, like I'm now going into agony mode, which is kind of their increasing
yeah,
difficulty sort of secondary mode, where the longer you last and the better you do, the harder the game gets, and it gets really, 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 really hard once you get up in like agony 5, I think is
yeah.
the max. And I'm like unlocking modifiers, and there's some real banana stuff there, but like it is it really is a bullet heaven game. So like if you don't like these kind of like bullet heaven RPG roguelike games, I don't think you're gonna like this. It's not, like we said before, it's not like the Balatro of like bullet heaven games where it's like, no, this is the one, this is the best one, and if you don't like any of them, you should check this out. It's not really like that. But it is really, really good. It's definitely, to me, like Spirit Hunters, Infinite Horde, Vampire Survivors, and Halls of Torment are like my kind of top 3 bullet heaven games. And this one is really, really, really good. I'm very excited for it to eventually come to consoles. It's only like a 5-person team, so it's probably going to be a while, but I'm
Mm.
this will be really good on consoles as well. So, but on PC, it's going to run on anything. It is not. It's like Vampire Survivors. It's not a heavy lifting game, so
Yeah,
you can run it on
yeah.
pretty much anything. So, all right. Next up is Destiny 2. Finishing episode 2, which is episode Revenant. This whole episode just struggled, and I'm like one of the last Destiny 2 defenders like on the internet, and I had a really hard time with this episode overall. I Part of it is that we're on the heels of we're still on the heels of the final shape, which was a really great capstone on the first 10 years of Destiny, the end of the Light and Dark saga, etc., etc. So you were kind of coming off of that, which is kind of a hard act to follow. The legacy, I think, of this episode is going to be bugs. And I think that's kind of the worst legacy you want. The the layoffs at Bungie and the devastation that these teams have sort of fallen under from a staffing perspective is really hitting hard this episode. And I look, anytime you play any video game, you're going to run into bugs. That's just the nature of like making any software. But it's sort of gotten to a point where things are launching on a week over week or act over act, and they're really broken in a considerable kind of unplayable way. It's not like, oh, a handful of people are running in some problems. It's pretty bad. And I think that has really marred a lot of what this episode has had to offer, because so much of it from a foundational level just hasn't really worked through most of it. And the holiday happened during this, where the studio was off for a couple of weeks, which also doesn't help from like an optics standpoint. Like, people should be able to spend time taking a vacation. Like, don't misunderstand me, but having people not be there for a couple of weeks while the game is in trouble is tough. Overall, I think from a storyline perspective, I think the game eventually got there. It struggled pretty consistently throughout the entire episode. It had a story to tell where you're kind of, the end of episode 1 ended pretty poorly. Essentially, the bad guy you're chasing got away in a way that didn't really feel super earned. And the worry going into this one was, oh, well, it's just going to happen again, right? We're going to do the same thing for all 3 episodes, and, the bad guy's going to get away for all 3 of them, and they're going to combine forces for the next expansion, and that's going to be our next one we're chasing. Thankfully, nothing like that. I think it ended on a much higher note for this one. But still really struggled to get there, largely surrounding an enemy that you're kind of joining forces with, that an enemy that literally nobody likes. Like, it's she's not even a good villain. She's not like really a great, like, someone you're joining forces with temporarily. Like, it's just, she shows up and everybody's like, oh god, okay, here we go again, great. So like, just kind of struggled the whole way through. The activities that happened this episode were fine, but like none of them were really landing. They launched an exotic mission that in this Act 3 that was okay. It's the footage we're watching here if you're watching the video version. That was pretty okay, but not nearly as kind of punchy as some of the other ones were. It's a bummer, because Destiny overall kind of needs a win right now, and I have probably been saying that for a while. But it's in a bad spot, kind of from like a player count perspective, but also from like a content and gameplay perspective. Like, the game still plays really well. I still think it's kind of best in class for shooting and kind of doing this kind of first person sort of MMO-ish thing. But so much of the rest of it desperately needs some sort of help in a way that I hope Bungie gets there. But the way that this entire multi-month episode really struggled, I'm kind of concerned about whether or not they can. So we'll see. I don't mean to be like a Debbie Downer about any of these games, but like it's just in kind of a rough spot from top to bottom, which is really frustrating and kind of concerning. So hopefully episode 3 that comes out in like a month or so, hopefully that's a little bit more cohesive and a little bit less bug free, I guess. I think that's kind of the best we can hope for at this point. So we'll see. We'll talk about more when that comes out. Last game I played this time, I don't think I talked about this last time we chatted, but Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake. Played a little bit of this, like maybe an hour or two, I think. I think it's a really smart version of this game. I think they have done... I'm not the world's biggest fan of the HD 2D stuff. I think I've sort of cooled on it a little bit over time. I think largely because Octopath Traveler, it tends to be a little bit blurrier than I like. The like foreground, background, sort of out of focus stuff I think is really extreme in those games. They've pulled back quite a bit on that on Dragon Quest 3. But they've made some really cool quality of life changes in this game, which all of these you can turn off, which I think is really smart too. Like, Dragon Quest 3 is not the most complex of games to begin with, but if you're playing it in kind of the quote unquote like new mode, whatever they call it, when you look at the map, they just have a big gold circle that's like, here's the next place you need to go. When you open up your menu on the right hand side, it just says next quest, obtain the thief's key. You know, it's like, it's very, very clear about go from point A to point B to point C, etc., etc., etc. Thankfully, you can turn all that stuff off. So if you want to just talk to all the townspeople to see, oh, I've heard the tree up in the north looks really suspicious. I wonder what that's about. You can still play that in that regard. But I like that there's a little bit more guidance. I think especially for younger players, because I think a game like this could be really good, especially on easier difficulties, could be really good for someone that is just starting with RPGs or just starting to play games, or they're kind of younger. And I appreciate that from a quality of life perspective. The soundtrack is really great. The kind of orchestrated versions of the songs is great. You can speed up the battle speed to like ×2 and ×4. I think ×4 is very fast. I know a lot of people complain about this, but I really like how they did the battle screen. When you're choosing your attacks, you can see the party on the screen, kind of in the bottom corner, and you're doing your normal kind of menu-driven stuff. And then when they have all their attacks chosen, it zooms back into that first-person perspective, so you're only seeing the enemies and you're seeing the like slashes and the enemies animating on screen, which I think is really cool. I have been surprised at how many people have been complaining about it. It's like, I can't even see my own party. And it's like, that's kind of Dragon Quest, man. Like 11 of them. Like that's sort of been the thing, has been the first person party, like the battling thing. So I'm kind of happy that they have kept that stuff intact. And the rest of it so far has seemed like Dragon Quest. You've got mini medals, you've got your spells, you're making your party, you're putting all the stuff together. There's a new character class, the Monster Tamer, I think it is, which seems ludicrously overpowered, which I kind of like the idea of like, yeah, we added a new character class for this version of the game. It's way too strong. It's like, yeah, perfect. Good. That's sort of how it should go. But so far it seems I really like Dragon Quest III. And this seems like there's kind of pluses and minuses of all of the other versions of like, oh well, the Game Boy Color one's really good, but oh the Switch one's good, but and there's always kind of this asterisk on all of them. And as far as I can tell, this is the one. This version seems like you can just go play this one and you'll be fine. There doesn't seem to be the board game thing is missing again, which is a real bummer because I think that's a lot of fun. But I think if they're going to cut anything, that's fine. I really would have liked to have seen it in this version, but I think it's kind of the thing I understand the most. So I was really hoping to play this more, but my thought was, well, why would I play more of this, a game I've already played and really enjoyed, like within the last year? Why wouldn't I just spend time with Metaphor? I should just play that. And then I didn't play either one of them, so let's see how far that got us. So but yeah, this is really good. I so far it seems really great, and everybody who's played it and everybody who's reviewed it has said it's really great, and it seems like it is genuinely a good version of Dragon Quest III, like one of the best and most famous JRPGs of all time. So I feel like you kind of can't go wrong with that at that point. So all right, that's all I'm playing. Let's talk about our releases for January 2025 here real quick. Ys Memoir, The Oath and Felghana, comes out PS4, PS5, and Switch out on... it's out now. It came out on January 7th. This is a remaster of the PSP Ys games, The Oath and Felghana. Sorry, the Ys game on PSP, Oath and Felghana, which people seem to really like when it came out, but it's one of those things of like, yeah, it was on the PSP, and yeah, there's a PC version, but it's not as accessible as maybe it could have been, especially for those that don't like playing RPGs on PC. So it's nice to see that there's kind of a newer version here, and it seems like it's doing great. It seems like it's kind of a great version of this game. So I've never played any of these games because I feel like if I was to start playing any of these, I just want to... I'm going to start with the first one. I'm going to play... There's 10 of them now, mainline, so I don't have time for that right now. So, but this seems pretty good. So that's Ys Memoir, The Oath and Felghana. Next up, we have Freedom Wars Remastered. Comes out PS4, PS5, Switch, and PC. You'll be shocked to know this is a remaster of Freedom Wars, the Vita game. This came out on the 10th of January. Did you ever play Freedom Wars?
No, and when I saw this on this list, I was like, I thought it was Freedom Force.
No.
It was vastly different game.
Yeah. People seem to really, really, really love this game when it came out on Vita as kind of like I always got the impression it was like a Monster Hunter-like, this kind of like multiplayer defeating big bosses RPG sort of thing. So people really liked it. I'm glad to see that this is getting another kind of accessible release because I think this only got released on the Vita, and I don't think it came to anything else. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's about the rarest platform you could put it on.
That's right.
Vita's great. Like,
yeah, I love the Vita too, but like nobody bought the Vita, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So. Next up is Tales of Grace's F Remastered. PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Series Console, Switch, and PC. You'll also be shocked to find out it's a remaster of Tales of Grace's F. I know you're shocked about that one. This is one of the Tales... I like the Tales games a lot, even though most of them are... I'll be generous and say fine. Some of them are bad, but I'm not going to name any names here. But like I have a soft spot for a lot of these, and this is one of the ones I haven't played, though I believe this is one of the more beloved ones. Did you ever play this one?
Nope.
Okay.
I've played very few Tales games,
Yeah.
And most of them were games that you or one of the old hosts
Yeah.
would have played. But I remember this one reviewing well.
Yeah. So this is cool. I like seeing more of this stuff becoming available, especially for, that released on, some of these are like, yeah, released on PS2 or GameCube. And it's like, I was playing other stuff on PS2. I wasn't playing a lot of stuff on GameCube. So it's a little bit more accessible here. Next game here, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth gets its release on PC on January 23rd. This is probably the game that needs no introduction after us talking about it last year. And reminder that Nimp and I did a 3-hour spoiler cast on this game where we were booking through the game the entire time. This looks pretty great. I remember seeing that the Final Fantasy VII Remaster, when it came on PC, was a pretty solid port that I think they kind of improved a little bit more over time. And this seems like it's great too. It's funny when we talk about like PC ports of console games on the show. It's a lot of like, there's better lighting, there's DLSS, there's this thing, it has DualSense support, it has, kind of like checks all the check boxes. But like, this was already a really good looking game on PS5, so I'm assuming if you have a solid PC, this probably looks really, really good. So this, I'm not here to tell you whether or not you should play Rebirth. I feel like our opinions here over the last year will probably tell you all you need to know. Also, if you haven't played Remake, you need to play that first. Don't just pick this one up.
Yeah.
I feel like I need to keep repeating that because there was a couple weeks where people were like, yeah, just pick up Rebirth. It's no big deal. It's like, no.
Yeah.
It's not like Final Fantasy 7 and Final Fantasy 8. You can just pick up 8. That's fine. 8's incredible. But like, you gotta play the first one first. So next up is an actual this one sounds like a remaster. It's not. Phantom Brave The Lost Hero comes out on the 30th for PS4, PS5, and Switch. I thought this was a remake of the first Phantom Brave game. It's not. This is actually a sequel to the 2004 first Phantom Brave game. This is an NIS joint. So like, you probably know how all these games kind of play at this point. If you played a Disgaea or any of their games,
yeah,
they're all kind of on a base level pretty similar. I just think it's kind of bananas to get a sequel. I liked Phantom Brave just fine. I think that was maybe one of the last Nipponichi games that I played because they're all very similar, which is not a negative. Like, I'm a Destiny 2 player, like I said. But like, I think my love of their games was sort of like, yeah, I like them, but I feel like I've kind of played most of them at this point. So that seems pretty neat. It's nice to see them kind of coming back to that series after so long. And last but certainly not least, Citizen Sleeper 2 Starward Vector comes out on the 31st, PS5, Series Console, Switch, PC, and Mac OS. I am chomping at the bit for this. I really love that first game. I know virtually nothing about this one because I'm trying to go in as blind as possible. I know it's a much bigger game than the first game, which we'll see if that's good or bad, but I have a lot of faith in this team that they won't make anything too much bigger. But if you didn't play the first one, I think it's still available on Game Pass. I think this is coming out on Game Pass day and date as well. I meant to look it up beforehand. But it's essentially a tabletop RPG where at the beginning of every day you're rolling X number of dice that you use to kind of propel yourself through the story each day. That is very much written like it looks like a visual novel from the outside, but it really is a tabletop RPG at the end of the day. So I'm really, really looking forward to this one. I really didn't think the first one was gonna get a sequel. I thought, like, great, one of my favorite games of all time. You just kind of came and you landed on a cool game, and then you went off and made other stuff. And I'm really excited to have them do another one here. So very, very pumped.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you play the first one? I don't remember.
I did. I didn't beat it, but I bought another copy on Steam. Um, so my intent is like this next week, I'm gonna play the Game Club game, and I'm gonna replay Citizen Sleeper One.
There you go. That's a perfect Steam Deck game.
And I don't remember why I didn't beat it. Like I got to like the very end. Like it
Mm,
wasn't like I wasn't anywhere. I feel like there was. I don't think you can even miss things in that game. I think there's just
not really. Yeah.
stuff you can kind of go back and do, and I don't know. Something must have come out that distracted me, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna finish it this time. And I don't remember it being very long either. So
No, it's not. Yeah. Even if you do 100% of the stuff, like I got the platinum on PS5, and that still didn't even take a super long amount of
yeah.
time. Even though I had to play it like 5 times or something. But
Or
that
maybe
was
you
still
know
pretty
what?
short.
I bet I was playing it on Switch, and my Switch permanently. I've been told it's fixed now on modern Switches, but my Switch seems to permanently have the your Joy-Cons disconnected.
Oh, sure.
And I've replaced the Joy-Cons through Nintendo and also just purchased them on my own multiple times, which is it really kind of killed that system for me.
Yeah, understandably.
But anyway, well,
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
starting that here in another week or so
Nice.
on Steam and talk about it next month.
Yeah. Check out next month's episode. All right, that's all the releases we have for this month, which means that's the end of the episode. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Musin, where can we find you online?
You can find me and you can find links to all my things at linktree.com/John Musum. That's the linktr.ee/JOHN. I can spell my own name. MUSIM.
There you go. You can find me at campsite.bio/Jansen, JANSTEN. I'll put another plug here for our end of the year stuff if you haven't listened to it. Kind of across all of the shows, we wrapped up a bunch of stuff over the last year. Kind of trying to celebrate 2024's positives and try and wrap up some of the stuff. And don't forget, January 31st at 2 p.m. Pacific, that's 5 p.m. Eastern, I will be doing a Destiny live stream. Twitch.tv/Boston Hannon. Go check that out. Even if you don't play Destiny, I run a really chill stream. So if you want to come and just hang out for a couple of hours, and usually I sort of find some interesting ways to punish myself in Destiny, so you can sort of enjoy that over there. So go check that out. And I think that's it. So we'll see you all next month. Bye.
Bye.